All right, let's dive into one of the law's most powerful and honestly coolest tools, the injunction. Now, this isn't about getting paid back for something bad that's already happened. Nope. This is about stopping that bad thing before it even starts. So how on earth does the legal system actually do that?
I mean, really think about it. Imagine a company's most valuable secret is about to get leaked online. Or, say, an ancient forest is about to be bulldozed. Suing for money after the fact? It doesn't really fix anything, does it? The secret's out forever, the forest is gone. So the law needs a way to step in. And believe me, it has one.
And that's really the heart of it, right? Some things you just can't fix with a check. You can't put a dollar amount on a ruined reputation or a constitutional right that's been violated. So when money just won't cut it, the courts have to have another tool in their belt. They need something that can, reach into the future and stop the damage from happening in the first place. Okay, so let's get into it. Section 1. Before it's too late. The best way to think about an injunction is like a legal shield. It's the court stepping in to hit the pause button, to keep things exactly as they are. Lawyers have a fancy term for this. They call it the status quo, just to make sure no permanent damage gets done while they figure things out.
So let's put a pin in exactly what we mean by injunction. The key here, the most important phrase, is forward-looking. See, most lawsuits are backward-looking. They're all about figuring out how much money someone owes for something they already did. An injunction is the total opposite. It's a judge pointing a finger and saying, "You, stop doing that." Or sometimes, you need to do this, all to prevent a future problem.
All right, but what happens when things are moving really, really fast? I mean, when the damage could happen tomorrow or even today. You don't have time for a long, drawn-out court case. Well, this is where the law has its own emergency brake.
When time is critical, the court can pull out a couple of super fast tools. First up, you've got what's called a temporary restraining order, or a TRO. Think of it like a super quick timeout that lasts for just a few days. But then, for true emergencies, there's something called an ex parte order. Ex parte, it's just a Latin way of saying from one side. This is so urgent, a judge can issue the order without even hearing from the other person yet, because the risk is just that big.
So, the big takeaway here is that both of these are all about one thing: speed. The goal isn't to figure out who's right or wrong in that moment. Not yet. It's just about slamming on the brakes to stop things from getting any worse. Because in these situations, waiting around would cause even more harm.
Okay, so the emergency brake has been pulled. The situation is frozen, for now. But you can't just leave it like that, right? Now comes the real work. The side that asked for the injunction has to step up and actually prove to the judge why it's needed. And to do that, courts generally use this four-part test. First, they look at whether you've got a good chance of actually winning the main lawsuit. Then, and this is the absolute key, they check for something called irreparable harm. Third, they do this balancing act. Who gets hurt more if the injunction is granted versus if it's not? And finally, they think about the public interest. Now, all four are important, but everything, and I mean everything, usually comes down to that second one. Irreparable harm. This is the make or break factor. It's the whole ball game. You have to show the judge that if they don't step in, the damage that's going to happen is the kind that money can never fix. We're talking about a trade secret getting out, a constitutional right being violated, things that once they're gone for good.
And this really breaks it down, doesn't it? Damages, money, that's all about looking in the rearview mirror. It's about paying for a mess that's already been made. Injunctions, they're about looking forward, out the windshield, to stop the car crash from happening at all.
So, what's next? After you hit that initial pause button, what happens? Well, an injunction isn't just a one-and-done emergency thing. It can actually evolve from a quick temporary fix into a permanent court-enforced rule.
And you can see that whole life cycle right here. It kicks off with that emergency TRO we talked about, which might only last for a few days. From there, it can grow into a preliminary injunction, which keeps everything on hold for weeks or even months while the main case is being fought. And then, at the very end, after a whole trial, a judge can make it a final injunction. That's permanent.
Okay, but wait. This is a ton of power, right? What's to stop someone from using an injunction just to mess with a competitor? Well, there's a really smart safeguard built in: the bond. A judge can say, okay, you want this injunction, you have to put up some money. And if it turns out later that the injunction was a bad call, that money goes to the other side to cover their losses. It's a super important check and balance.
So let's zoom out. We've gone through all the mechanics, but why does any of this really matter in the big picture? Well, because the simple fact that injunctions exist completely changes our idea of what the law can even do.
Because they transform law from being something that just reacts to problems
into something that can actually anticipate them. It shifts the entire legal system from looking backward at what went wrong to looking forward to prevent things from going wrong in the first place.
And that really is what it's all about. This whole complicated legal tool boils down to one simple, powerful idea. It's there to guard us against the kind of harm that money just can't fix.
So we're back to that fundamental question, aren't we? How do we protect ourselves from the harms that are, well, priceless? It's a massive challenge, but the injunction, it's one of the law's most powerful answers. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.